Welcome to my Havenhythe Big Game Hunter guide. Some things changed since release, so I'll be covering both the Giant Kebbit and the Giant Chinchompa. This guide focuses on mechanics, so I'll be demonstrating the highest level hunts for both creatures, but the same strategies and methods can be applied to the lower level tiers as well. I'm Wings of Absurdity. Let's begin. These are the level requirements, big requirements, experience per hunt, rewards per hunt for the hunts. The location of the Big Game Hunter is located at Hollow Hill, northeast of Wonderwick. You can either take the lodestone and walk over there yourselves, or use the War's Retreat portal to Ivar and then walk towards Hollow Hill. Let's start with the preparations for the hunt. If there are some items that you do not have, it will definitely be a lot more difficult, but it's not required. For the Giant Chinchompa, I recommend a full Elite Hunter Skilling outfit, but really all it would do is give you some extra hunter experience. If you do have it, you can also bring the Hunter Brawling Gloves for some extra experience. Ring of Vitter for an additional 5% success rate, but I can't be sure if that actually works on the mobs. The main things I recommend is Shadow's Grace Relic for the cooldown reduction on Surge and Dive. I do recommend Power Burst of Acceleration for emergency purposes, Magic Note Paper to note the meat. The Hypno Wand is to speed up the construction of the traps, Televor's Net or Magic Butterfly Net for higher chance for capturing the mobs, and also because you can capture 2 at a time. The Televore Lantern I found isn't as useful in the hunt because I'd rather have the Hypno Wand equipped unless you want to switch the gear often. It is useful for something else which I'll explain later. If you want to obtain the Televore Net and Lantern, you can simply break these hollow trees in Havenhythe until you get it. There are 4, so you break 4 of them and then wait for them to respawn. It would take a while, and it took me about an hour or 2 to get them both. Before the hunt, equip your Televore Lantern, and I recommend you go to the Giant Chinchompa Arena and start breaking down these trees. Use the Televore Net and the Lantern with the butterfly jars to capture a bunch of them until you have enough for a full 60-minute duration for each, so you'll need 6 of each color. When you're ready to begin the hunt, consume all of them until you have 60 minutes of their buff. Essentially, what they would do is make the hunt more bearable. I would also recommend a yak or mammoth and place all your bait in the beast of burden. The bait would work in your beast of burden, so you'll need to take it out. Deposit your lantern unless you want to switch to it, which isn't really necessary to be honest. And this is what your inventory setup should look like. If you somehow used all your bait in your beast of burden, make sure your deposit box has some extra bait in case you run out. If you're doing high level hunts, it is currently very expensive to use these as bait, but from experience, I can tell you that you will earn more than you can consume. This is the layout for the level 108 Golden Chinchompa. The positioning of the ropes, the logs, the grass, and the bones on the ground will change with every encounter, but their mechanics will remain the same. The tall grass will stop the aggression from going up when the chinchompa is near you. Stepping on these bones will make a crunch sound and alert the chinchompa, and then it will beeline towards you. You want to immediately hide inside the tall grass as soon as possible because their aggression will instantly shoot up to red. Wait for the aggression to go down to 0 before you can safely leave the grass. It will grunt as an indicator that you can safely leave. Long story short, avoid stepping on the bones as much as possible, but there are some ways to deal with it which I'll explain later. The logs and the rope nodes are there for you to gather materials that you need to build the traps. These are the required materials for each of the traps. Do keep in mind that the log traps requires 2 steps to fully complete them, so you will have to click it again after assembling it the first time. The giant box trap will only require 1 step. There's also the hollow trees which will spawn 2 different colored moths. These moths will be used as bait for the log traps, while the main bait in your beast of burden will go into the giant box trap. When you spawn the mobs, the Chinchompa will beeline towards it to consume them, so the timing is tight. With the layout explained, it's time to explain my strategy on how I complete this hunt. The first thing I want to prioritize when starting my very first encounter is gather tons of rope and logs and focus on assembling the log traps and the giant box trap. This is the most important thing to do before doing anything else, which will make the encounter easier. Try to assemble the one that the Chinchompa was recently located, since it's unlikely the Chinchompa will be in range of it. The movement of the Chinchompa is very erratic, so I'm going to advise caution. If you guess its movement incorrectly, you can use the tall grass to hide. Since for the first encounter, you need to figure out which moth is the correct one. So once all the traps are assembled, I will collect more rope and wood for future encounters, and then break down the first hollow tree, preferably the one furthest away from the Chinchompa, and capture them as quickly as possible. Then test the first moth by right-clicking it and select a color to toss. Once you do that, the Chinchompa will beeline towards it. In this case, it just so happens to be in front of the log trap. Click on the log trap when the Chinchompa is nearby. Your character does need to be close and cannot be too far away to trigger the log trap. If it deals 15,000 damage, then the other color is the correct one. In this case, it's the blue moth. Whenever you trigger a log trap, nearby tall grass will be destroyed and take 18 seconds to regrow. The Chinchompa's aggression radius will also increase. As for the incorrect moth color, I will not throw them out. There will be a use for them. I would reassemble the trap that we tested, and this is where we start using the incorrect colored moth. I would throw the incorrect colored moth at the log trap again, and then use that time to quickly break another hollow tree and collect more moths for future runs. The trees will take a bit to respawn, so it's best to just finish this encounter. Throw the correct moth, in this case the blue moth, at the log trap closest to the giant box trap. Then get ready to trigger it. A buff will appear in your buff bar, indicating the correct moth color. Since I recorded some footage before, it should normally last for 60 minutes. This means for the next 60 minutes, you just need the blue moths. Immediately dive to the other trap that's near the box trap and throw another blue moth. Make sure you see your character actually throwing the moth, because sometimes it would say the Chinchompa is currently distracted, which means you can't throw it. Repeat and then go to the log trap that's furthest away from the giant box. Always make sure that log trap that's furthest away from the giant box is the last one you trigger. You will see why. Once you trigger it, immediately surge towards the giant box and put the bait in it. The distance between the giant box and the furthest log trap should be enough time to end the encounter. And there you go, the first kill. Skin it, and you don't need to remove the bait for your beast of burden to quick start the next encounter. So once you finish skinning it, immediately quick start the next encounter. You will keep the resources you've collected and just repeat the process. If you need more moths, use the wrong colored moth to distract the Chinchompa while you go collect more moths. Otherwise, just assemble the traps again and you're good to go. There's a few extra tips I have before wrapping up this Chinchompa guide. If the Chinchompa is actually distracted by something, stepping on a bone won't actually do anything. As you can see here, it didn't care at all. If you're near the end of the hour, be careful on the last one, because I noticed my bait placement was a lot slower when the buffs ran out, and it actually caused me to fail. If the Chinchompa walks over you, you get binded, which also interrupts whatever you're doing, including building the traps. Use freedom to break out. Whenever you click to trigger the traps, it will make you face towards the trap, so be careful about when you're trying to surge the other way, or you'll do what I'll call an Amelia surge, surging directly into the Chinchompa and then failing. Sometimes if your inventory is full when skinning the Chinchompa, the meat will drop to the ground under your feet, so be sure to check it before starting the next encounter. There is also a deposit box to drop your common loot, or you can put them in your beast of burden. And if you're wondering about the results, after an hour of doing this Chinchompa, these are the results without any urns. The output would definitely be lower at the lower levels, so if you're wondering what my previous level 96 results were in an hour, it was this. So just to summarize, these are the pseudo steps to complete this encounter. For the Giant Kebbit, the setup is about the same as the Giant Chinchompa with some tweaks. I'll be bringing my own Grandma spikes, and I will replace the net with Yatri stick since the net doesn't actually do anything in this hunt. Again, I will be using all the buffs from the captured mobs, and I will fill my yak with Giant Chinchompa meat before starting the encounter. The layout is very different from the Chinchompa. The colored mushrooms will require your Gwenwall spikes. Unlike the Giant Chinchompa, once you figure out the correct colored mushroom, you can simply ignore the other colored mushroom. There are logs and rock nodes here. You will need logs to assemble the 3 spike traps. The spike traps requires 2 steps. The first step will consume the logs, and the second step will consume your colored poison Gwenwall spike. The pitfall trap requires 1 log and 1 rock. There are 4 barrels with 1 in each corner, which the patrolling outer Kebbit would use in this hunt. I'll explain about this later, but your goal is to hunt the giant Kebbit that's near the center. The Kebbit that's patrolling on the outer edge of the arena near the burrows is just an inconvenience. Like the Chinchompa encounter, the first priority should be to gather rocks and logs, but also figuring out the correct colored mushroom. Try to assemble the traps that the Kebbit just walked by, since it's unlikely they will return to that spot. Once everything is assembled, test which mushroom is the correct one. To bait the Kebbit, you want to stand either on the trap itself or directly behind the trap where the Kebbit will walk through it, and then click on the Kebbit to lure it. You will do a whistle and it will start beelining towards you. What do I mean by behind the trap? When you lure the Kebbit, it will try to find a way to get to the position you were standing on when you made that whistle sound. If its line of path will cross the trap will trigger and hurt the Kebbit. So if you were to lure the Kebbit while being in front of the trap, it will actually not trigger it. I hope that is easy to understand. This is what it actually looks like when you do it correctly. Once it triggers the trap, if it did 15k damage, the correct color is the other mushroom. If it did 30k, you found the correct one. I would spend more time to collect more of the correct colored mushroom and throw away the wrong one, and then repeat the process. I would explain the strategy I have in the next hunt. So after the first encounter, again I would prioritize assembling all the traps, but this time also coating them with poison, which in this case, green. Once all of them are assembled, I would lure the Kebbit and immediately dive surge to the next trap. The outer Kebbit will appear behind me in one of the burrows where I lured the Kebbit, but because I dived/surged away, I don't need to care about it. After it takes damage, I lure it again to the next trap and dive surge to the next one again. After I lured the Kebbit to the third trap, I would hide in the tall grass closest to the center pitfall trap, and once it takes damage, I click on the pitfall trap. Unlike the Chinchompa, with all the boosts, it should just immediately end the hunt after clicking the pitfall trap once. Now just rinse and repeat. And now for some extra tips. Don't spam click the middle trap or the mushrooms or nothing will happen. You just need to click it once. And sometimes when you lure it, it might have walked over another trap, so just look at its health bar if you're confused why it isn't coming towards you. And after an hour, I managed these results without any urns. And if it helps, Here's a summarized version on how to do the Giant Kebbit Big Hunts. And that wraps up my Havenhythe Big Game Hunter guide. If you're wondering about the GP profit, I started with 1539 mil in my coin pouch and ended up with 1688 mil in 2 hours. So 149 mil profit as of recording. But I made this video with the intention that this won't be the case forever. If you got any questions or tips that I missed, feel free to leave them in the comments. I hope this guide will help you a lot. So please subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.